family abandonment, trauma, adoption. OP doesn't want to meet her biological parents after they abandoned her as a baby. Title: AITA for telling my biological sisters I don't want to meet our biological parents. I am a Chinese woman who was adopted from mainland China when I was a baby and grew up in the UK. I grew curious about my roots and if I had any family out there, so I took a 23andMe test. I found 4 full sisters through this test. I'm the oldest. My sisters are 29, 28, 24, and 20. The 3 middle sisters are in America, and the youngest is in Germany. We have kept in contact via the internet, and have even met in person twice before COVID started. I have 2 brothers I grew up with who are my parents' biological sons, and as far as I'm concerned, they and my parents are my true family, but I have grown close to my biological sisters as we understand each other a lot. What my parents know about my birth story is that I was found in an alleyway in a box. My sisters were found relatively the same way from what they know, though they were left outside of buildings in public areas. So I'm a bit more bitter than they are about how we were abandoned, as I was left out of the way where I could have been missed. We recently got contacted by a new family member found by the test, an 18-year-old full brother who lives in France with our biological parents. Apparently, they moved there later in life. My biological sisters are excited by this and eager to meet them. They want the 5 of us to fly out together to meet our brother and family. I've told them I won't stop then. But I have no interest in meeting the couple who clearly kept trying to have a boy and abandoned 5 daughters. We know about reminding them there could be more. We don't know about those who haven't used 23andMe. They feel I'm being unreasonable in this, and I should at least go meet our brother. I'm fine meeting him one day, but not with them there, and he and I have been exchanging emails for now. I know they want the 5 of us to go out as a united front in this, and my not wanting to go is disheartening for them. But I honestly feel bitter in regards to this whole situation. Relevant comments. Cellular 7. NTA, that is a very personal trauma for you, and it is especially worse for you as the one who is the oldest and was the closest to not having a life at all because of their abandonment. I hope you and your brother form as strong of a bond as you and your sisters have, and I hope they all come to understand your feelings and stop pushing it. OP. It was a bit tough to work up the ability to exchange emails with him. After all, he is the goal they were clearly aiming for, which resulted in myself and my biological sisters being abandoned. That being said, I reminded myself that he's really just a kid, and none of this was his fault. Ebony Childs. And there aren't any kids after him. So it's pretty clear then that they did know how to use contraception and were just selfish child abandoners. That's really awful. OP. He hasn't mentioned any younger siblings in the emails, so it's a safe bet there aren't. The Backersist. NTA. I too am an adopted person who was abandoned at birth, outside of a bodega in the bad part of town. I also took a DNA test and ended up meeting a biological family, and I regret it so very, very much. Meeting my siblings and birth parents sickened me so much that I feel as though I'll never get my mind back to where it used to be. And I had the unfortunate pleasure of being filmed for TV meetings with them. It's sucky to find out that I have an older brother with the same birthday as me. Only he got to have a birthday party, and I got left outside in the cold. Please don't ever think you're an arsehole for not wanting to meet your biological parents. You're not. Sometimes it's a lot worse than not knowing. OP. I'm so sorry. The idea of being filmed for that makes me want to throw up. I'm sorry you had to put up with that. I can imagine why it'd stink to find out your older brother had the same birthday as you. I was left in the alley in the winter. I'm not sure of my exact birthday. We have a rough estimate but nothing more. If you ever want to talk to someone who is similar to this, feel free to hit me up. Toe Select 6695. Sorry to ask this, but these things just make my blood boil. Did they at least seem remorseful? Did they understand how evil what they did to you was? From what you're saying, I guess not, and I guess you should not linger and talk to them. OP. I'm not the one who met their parents. You'd likely get a reply if you replied to them. Easy mistake to make on who you reply to. From a deleted account. I see videos of reunions like that on the news every now and then. They always make me so uncomfortable. It's such a private, emotional moment where everyone is likely to be feeling very complex things. They shouldn't be recorded for TV. I'm so sorry that happened to you. OP. A local newspaper wanted to do a bit on me and my sister's first meeting and be there for it. I told them politely to F off and not come near us. Update, so I've had contact with my biological parents. After some pushing from my bio sisters over getting in contact with our bio parents, while I don't want to fly out to meet them with my sisters, they still want to talk to me. I finally consented to having a Zoom call with our bio parents, as that was the most I could handle. I'll be honest, it was like a punch in the gut. I look so much like our biological mother, it was a little startling. So I found out some answers to some important questions. First, why were we abandoned? As many of you can guess, it was to do with the one-child policy. They wanted a son, but there was additional internal pressure to this. My paternal grandparents had told them if they kept a daughter, they would be cut off and not have a penny of the family money. It's why I was abandoned so differently from my sisters. It was my paternal grandmother who took me out to abandon. My bio parents always assumed that I had unalive with how she left me, so they took over the abandonment of my sisters, which is why they were left in better places. Were there any other children? Yes, one. A boy who would be 22 right now had everything going according to plan. They had been going to keep him, but apparently something was wrong about him. I don't know what, and they didn't elaborate on that, but apparently my paternal grandfather forced them to give him up because he was ashamed. Why did they move to France? After our youngest brother was born, they finally gained financial independence from my paternal grandparents and were able to move. They were the ones who asked their son to take the test, hoping to find their other children. Where does this leave us? They were so happy to talk to me and kept going on about how they now had most of their children back and could have it all. I cut them off there and told them they didn't want us back. I expressed sympathy for what they had been put through by my paternal grandparents, but pointed out that they chose money over me and over all of us, and how they could have chosen to simply keep me or any of the others and make their own way in life, but they hadn't. I thanked them for the call but told them I had a family already and had no further interest in speaking with them. I'd continue to be in contact with my biological brother, but this was all they'd get. They tried to beg me to stay on the call, but I left, and I admit I had a little bit of a sob afterward. My adoptive brothers ended up taking me out to drink afterwards, and the three of us got hammered while I vented and cried some, but it helped me work through things a lot. So thanks to everyone. I just figured you all deserved an update. Relevant comments. Throwaway gremlins. Just curious, does everyone communicate in English? Your bio parents and your 18-year-old brother and sister are in Germany. OP. Yes, but not everyone is fluent. My sister in Germany is fluent in English. Our bio father is also fluent, though our bio mother isn't. She only knows a little, so for the call, a lot of it was translated by my bio father. My brother is very good at English but not very fluent. Cherylee, I'm so sorry for your experience. Your grandparents are horrible, evil people who deserve to rot in hell. I'm Chinese, and sometimes when I think about my past, I'm really glad that my maternal grandparents and my paternal grandpa left China in the early 1920s during the Sino-Japanese War. Life would have been so much harder for them if they'd stayed. I took a 23andMe DNA test last year as well and found a second cousin who was born in China and adopted by a Finnish family. I reached out to her mother, and we managed to figure out that we're related through my mom's side. Her mother said she was just dumped and they adopted her from an orphanage. She was severely underweight, had bruises and other injuries, and was barely verbal. I couldn't figure out who in my mom's family she was related to. My grandma's siblings stayed in China, and we currently have no contact with them. I've never met them. I just felt so disgusted by the whole story. That poor child, it was just so sad. My mom tried contacting some of our extended family in China to try and figure the mystery out, but her cousins insisted that they'd never heard of anyone in the family dumping a baby girl. It's just a mystery that we'll never be able to solve, sadly. OP. That is, sadly, very common in Chinese orphanages. My parents say when they adopted me, I was so small and underweight that they thought the orphanage had made a mistake and I was younger than they'd been told. I couldn't even sit upright. I'm so sorry about your second cousin, and I'm glad that you were able to track them down. Sadly, I doubt you'll ever find out. Most likely, they're too ashamed to come forward and admit what they did, but at least they know something about their family now through you. Cherylee, it seems so, but I also get that they had so many babies dumped during their one-child policy era that orphanages were just overflowing and couldn't keep up. It's a weird feeling to be both proud of and ashamed of my heritage. On the one hand, our culture invented a lot of technological advances, but on the other hand, so many practices were just abhorrent. I've done a lot of research into foot binding, just another cruel practice to force women into submission. My maternal grandma had 7 daughters and 1 son. My grandpa treated her like crap because she was a useless wife for producing so many girls. Never mind that it's the father who determines the sex of a baby. My mom and her siblings grew up in poverty, while my grandpa amassed a lot of wealth through his giant acres of rubber and palm oil plantations. He spent his money on his other wives. Yes, he had 3. Who gave him more sons. I'm really glad that you managed to track down your bio sisters, and hopefully you have a long, positive relationship with them. How did their meeting with your biological parents go? Did they go home disillusioned? Or do they accept the choices that your biological parents made? OP. They have yet to meet them properly, though they have been in contact online. The plan is to fly out sometime soon. I think it's why they were pushing me to do the Zoom call with our bio parents, thinking if I did this, I'd be more open to going with them as they want to go as a united front, but I've been very against it. This hasn't changed my feelings on the matter, however. Thank you for watching the video.